I'm continuing with this series on how I know that this is the end. And the question that God had me write down in my notes 2 or 3 weeks ago, that if I were going to teach someone who didn't know anything about the Bible or thought that they did and is now living during this time in which they're given the opportunity to come out of deception, to come out of Babylon, as God said, what would I teach them? Yesterday I began with Daniel 9, demonstrating for you in Scripture, proving to you in Scripture that there have been thousands of years in which the ruler of the people who would come, the Antichrist, invaded the beautiful land, as it says in Daniel 11, and has destroyed the sanctuary. Proving to you that we are living during a time of insidious deception in which Jesus said over and over for good reason, do not be deceived. In this video, I'm going to prove and demonstrate to you who the Antichrist is. We're going to begin in Daniel 2. In the second year of his reign, Nebuchadnezzar had dreams. His mind was troubled and he could not sleep. So the king summoned the magicians, the enchanters, sorcerers, and astrologers to tell him what he had dreamed. When they came in and stood before the king, he said to them, I've had a dream that troubles me and I want to know what it means. Then the astrologers answered the king, may the king live forever. Tell your servants the dream and we will interpret it. The king replied to the astrologers, this is what I've firmly decided. If you do not tell me what my dream was and interpret it, I will have you cut into pieces and your houses turned into piles of rubble. But if you tell me the dream and explain it, you will receive from me gifts and rewards and great honor. So tell me the dream and interpret it for me. Once more they replied, let the king tell his servants the dream and we will interpret it. Then the king answered, I am certain that you are trying to gain time, because you realize that this is what I've firmly decided. If you do not tell me the dream, there is only one penalty for you. You have conspired to tell me misleading and wicked things, hoping that the situation will change. So then, tell me the dream and I will know that you can interpret it for me. The astrologers answered the king, there's no one on earth who can do what the king asked. No king, however great and mighty, has ever asked such a thing of any magician or enchanter or astrologer. Now, let's just make this modern day for you. These would be like the wise people, like the philosophers and the psychologists and the doctors and the important people of the world, going back and creating theories of this is why this happened. This is what it means. And then they'd pat each other on their backs, and they'd exalt certain people to certain status. This is the doctor that came up with this, and that's the doctor that came up with that. And you know what? God hates all of that. He hates all of it. Because all you're doing is rewarding yourself based on human rules and human standards, and it's all stupid, and he foils it. That's what these people were. Magicians, enchanters, astrologers, they were the wise people, the experts. So you might read this and you might be, how stupid. Why did he consult with magicians, enchanters, or astrologers? Why do you? Your wise people are just called something else. Why do you? The word says in Revelation that of those who did not die from the sixth trumpet plague, they didn't stop worshiping and practicing magic arts. What do you think that is? It's exactly this. What the king asks is too difficult. No one can reveal it to the king except the gods, and they do not live among the humans. This made the king so angry and furious that he ordered the execution of all the wise men of Babylon. So the decree was issued to put the wise men to death, and men were sent to look for Daniel and his friends and put them to death. When Arioch, the commander of the king's guard, had gone out to put to death the wise men of Babylon, Daniel spoke to him with wisdom and tact. He asked the king's officer, why did the king issue such a harsh decree? Arioch then explained the matter to Daniel. At this, Daniel went into the king and asked for time so that he might interpret the dream for him. Then Daniel returned to his house and explained the matter to his friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. He urged them to plead for mercy from the God of heaven concerning this mystery, so that he and his friends might not be executed with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. During the night, the mystery was revealed to Daniel in a vision. Then Daniel praised the God of heaven and said, Praise be to the name of God forever and ever. He changes times and seasons. He deposes kings and raises up others. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to the discerning. He reveals deep and hidden things. He knows what lies in the darkness, and light dwells with him. I thank and praise you, God of my ancestors. You have given me wisdom and power. You have made known to me what we asked of you. You have made known to us the dream of the king. Who's Daniel, by the way? Is he one of the wise? Is he one of the exalted, the important? No, Daniel was in exile. Just a foolish thing of the world that God uses to confound the wise. Then Daniel went to Arioch, whom the king had appointed to execute the wise men of Babylon, and said to him, Do not execute the wise men of Babylon. Take me to the king, and I will interpret his dream for him. Arioch took Daniel to the king at once and said, I have found a man among the exiles from Judah who can tell the king what his dream means. Oh, among the exiles from Judah. So, no one special, at least not to the world. The king asked Daniel, also called Belteshazzar, Are you able to tell me what I saw in my dream and interpret it? Daniel replied, No wise man, enchanter, magician, or diviner can explain to the king the mystery he is asked about. But there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries. He has shown King Nebuchadnezzar what will happen in days to come. Your dream and the visions that passed through your mind as you were lying in bed are these. Now, pay attention. Daniel didn't take credit for it, did he? He said, There's a God in heaven. No wise man can reveal this. It's God in heaven who has done this. Jesus said in the book of John that there are those who speak on their own authority, and they do so for their own glory. And there are those who speak on the authority of the one who sent them, and that is the person of truth. In the world, that's foolishness, right? What does everyone say? Well, can you substantiate that with research? Yeah, research. Research is the biggest farce. You have to keep regurgitating, recycling old research, and then acting like it's so prestigious, it's so esteemed. It's pathetic. Why is it that we haven't, that people are not healing physically, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually? Why? Why are we getting worse, not better? Where's your evidence for that? And we all play along with it. Oh, I don't have evidence. I can't speak what is face valid fact. Can't even have a spiritual experience. Spiritual experience is null because it can't be empirically supported. So this completely exempts revelation from God. You're hearing revelation from God. You claim that you're a witness. Well, I need to see the rest of the 144,000. No, you need to go back to God and discern whether what I'm saying is true. Your dream and the visions that passed through your mind as you were lying in bed are these. As your majesty was lying there, your mind turned to things to come, and the revealer of mysteries showed you what is going to happen. As for me, this mystery has been revealed to me. Again, he's going to give God the glory. Not because I have greater wisdom than anyone else alive, but so that your majesty may know the interpretation and that you may understand what went through your mind. Your majesty looked, and there before you stood a large statue, an enormous, dazzling statue, awesome in appearance. The head of the statue was made of pure gold, its chest and arms of silver, its belly and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of baked clay. While you were watching, a rock was cut out, but not by human hands. It struck the statue on its feet of iron and clay and smashed them. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, and gold were all broken to pieces and became like chaff on a threshing floor in the summer. The wind swept them away without leaving a trace, but the rock that struck the statue became a huge mountain and filled the whole earth. This was the dream, and now we will interpret it to the king. Your majesty, you are the king of kings. The God of heaven has given you dominion and power and might and glory. In your hands he has placed all mankind and the beasts of the field and the birds in the sky. Wherever they live, he has made you ruler over them all. You are that head of gold. After you, another kingdom will arise, inferior to yours. Next, a third kingdom, one of bronze, will rule over the whole earth. Finally, there will be a fourth kingdom, strong as iron, for iron breaks and smashes everything. And as iron breaks things to pieces, so it will crush and break all the others. Just as you saw that the feet and toes were partly of baked clay and partly of iron, so this will be a divided kingdom. Yet it will have some of the strength of iron in it, even as you saw iron mixed with clay. As the toes were partly of iron and partly of clay, so this kingdom will be partly strong and partly brittle. And just as you saw the iron mixed with baked clay, so the people will be a mixture and will not remain united any more than iron mixes with clay. So from that fifth kingdom on, They will not remain united. This will be a divided kingdom. In the time of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed, nor will it be left to another people. It will crush all those kingdoms and bring them to an end, but it will itself endure forever. This is the meaning of the vision of the rock cut out of a mountain, but not by human hands. A rock that broke the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold to pieces. The great God has shown the king what will take place in the future. The dream is true, and its interpretation is trustworthy. Then King Nebuchadnezzar fell prostrate before Daniel and paid him honor and ordered that an offering and incense be presented to him. The king said to Daniel, "Surely your God is the God of gods, and the Lord of kings, and a revealer of mysteries, for you were able to reveal this mystery." Then the king placed Daniel in a high position and lavished many gifts on him. He made him ruler over the entire province of Babylon and placed him in charge of all its wise men. Moreover, at Daniel's request, the king appointed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego administrators over the province of Babylon, while Daniel himself remained at the royal court. All right, let's count it down. Head is made of gold. 1. Chest and arms of silver. 2. Its belly and thighs of bronze. 3. Its legs of iron. 4. Its feet partly of iron and partly of baked clay. 5. There are 5 kingdoms here. Gold, we've already been told, is Babylon. Babylon fell to Medo-Persia. That's silver. Medo-Persia fell to Greece. That's bronze. Greece fell to Rome. That's iron. Iron in Scripture is often going to refer to Rome. So when you see in Revelation 9 that this army of locusts has their breastplate as iron, you should understand that we have a breastplate of righteousness, and that army, whose king over them is Apollyon, destroyer, that what is over their hearts is Rome. It's not righteousness. And lastly, you have a kingdom that is partly iron, Rome, and partly clay. It is a divided kingdom that has a mixture of people that will not remain united, that will be divided, denominations. This is papal Rome. This is the harlot Catholic Church. Now you also see that there is a rock cut out, not by human hands, and that the rock is thrown to the 5th kingdom of papal Rome, which establishes a divided kingdom. And then you're told in Revelation 17 that this kingdom, that the fulfillment is actually 8 kingdoms, and that the 8th is of the 7. So from the 5th kingdom on, you know that this is a divided kingdom. The other thing that you're told in Revelation 17:5 is that Babylon the Great has prostitute daughters. What is prostitution in the word? Prostitution means that you have prostituted yourself to the world. And that's exactly what the harlot Catholic Church did. So if you're prostituting yourself to what she teaches and what she established, you are one of her daughters. That includes Christmas and Easter. The Feast of Nativity, the Feast of Images. What is a nativity? A bunch of little statues. What is Easter? It's a pagan holiday that the Roman Catholic Church turned into Passover. Passover is not Easter Sunday. It is an evening in which the lamb was sacrificed, where you now eat unleavened bread. You don't have to eat lamb. You can eat lamb if you want, but not as a sacrifice. But you are eating unleavened bread from that night. You are taught to keep vigil for the Lord on that night. And for the next 7 days, you're going to observe the festival of unleavened bread, also part of the Passover, in order to remember certain things, like the unleavened bread of Jesus, the bread of life, like the fact that God had the Israelites leave Egypt in haste so that they were unable to add yeast to their dough. We know that we are going to be leaving in haste during the resurrection when the 7th trumpet is about to blow and God is going to bring destruction on the wicked. God's people will be saved. No, you're not saved right now. Newsflash, you're working out your salvation. You will be delivered. No, deliverance has nothing to do with casting out a spirit. Those are prostitutions, guys. Deliverance has never been used to refer to casting out a spirit. These are all prostitutions made up in this Antichrist kingdom so that you will never understand what the word is actually saying because you keep listening to man. Zion will deliver her children after those birth pangs. And God's people will leave in haste, and they will be passed over when God brings the seventh trumpet, the destruction on the wicked. All of these things you're supposed to be understand, on which you meditate your heart during the festival of unleavened bread, during the Passover. But instead of doing that, what you've been doing is celebrating Easter. On Sunday, no less. Not counting down on God's lunar calendar so that you know when you're celebrating this. Not understanding that actually Passover occurs on the entire seasonal calendar. It doesn't occur in spring every year. Because God has date-specific holy days, and he has season-specific holy days, and all you have to do is a simple Google search to see that a lunar calendar does not correlate with a seasonal calendar. That is the calendar of the Harlot Catholic Church. The Gregorian calendar correlates dates and seasons, so you're used to it. God's calendar does not. And you know what? It just so happens that in Lamentations 2:11, as I demonstrated for you in the first video, 2:6, and Hosea 2:11, that God told us that Jews were not going to keep track of the calendar, that they would lose it. And so all of this nonsense that they are teaching, that you are ingesting, adding to the scroll, getting your gospel from a group of people who have not accepted Christ, is false. It's false. And you don't even realize that in Leviticus 23, he has two season-specific holy days that are contingent on when the people entered the land. That's the offering of first fruits. When you enter the land I'm going to give you, this is what you are to do. Now, if you were observing new moon, then you would know exactly when the offering of first fruits is every single year, even though God doesn't give you a date. You know why? Because when the Israelites entered the land, they observed the Passover. And then after the Passover, not after one day, after the 8 days, then after that Sabbath, which the last day is a Sabbath, they observed the offering of first fruits. So we know that in that particular year, that this occurred the day after the Passover on the 22nd of the month. You can track that by the moon if you were actually observing new moon. During the season when the Jordan was at flood stage. And we know when the Jordan is at flood stage. So we don't need to know the month because the month is going to change on a date. The date specific month is going to change. But the season, during that season, on the 22nd of whatever month that is, we know that that's the offering of first fruits. How will you ever know the things that I'm saying to you if you are not in obedience? How will you ever know that based on a lunar month, in which the first day of the month, according to Amos 8:5, is always a rest day, how will you ever understand that God does not have a relentless set of weeks, but that the first day of a lunar month is a rest day, followed by exactly what God told us to do in Leviticus 23, which is to count the days, not name them. So you have a rest day, you know that's going to be followed by 6 work days, and then a rest day, and then 6 work days, and then a rest day. And these are weeks, and there's only 4 of those in a month. But you know what? The first day of the month is not part of a week because it's not defined by, it's not preceded by 6 work days. So you only have 4 weeks in a month. And in a 29-day month, you'd have only 1 day in between those 4 weeks. That would be the first day of the month. And in a 30-day month, you would have 2 days between those weeks, the 30th day and the first day. How would you ever know how to count down the festival of weeks, which God said in this such a peculiar way? He didn't say count down 50 days. He said count down 7 weeks up to the 50th day, because God knows that there are 1 to 2 days in between each set of 4 weeks. He's not just trying to be peculiar. It's peculiar to you because you're trying to take a template of prostituting yourself to the world and make God fit in it, rather than leaving Babylon and going and rending your heart to what he has established. You don't recognize, because you have been born into a time of deception, you don't recognize that the Antichrist has attempted to change God's appointed times, as was prophesied in the book of Daniel. So don't tell me that you're in the one denomination, the one church in a divided kingdom who's got it all figured out, and you're not being deceived, because God doesn't say some of you need to come out of Babylon. He says all of you come out of Babylon. But some of you are so blatantly arrogant that you think you're exempt from that. Oh no, I couldn't have been deceived. No, the sky's been purple all my life. Don't talk to me about it being blue. I can't change this now. And what about everybody else? How will I ever belong in the world, in my family, in my marriage, if I believe these peculiar things that God is trying to make me see? You have to decide whether you want truth, because remember that God says, many are called, but few are chosen. There are only a few people who are going to believe the peculiar, non-normative things of God. And that for those of you who were extended this, who are listening to me speaking on the Bible, I'm not speaking out of things that I pulled out of my rear end. I'm speaking on the authority of the one who sent me. And if you're unwilling to consider it, you've rejected truth. What does God say about that? My people perish from lack of knowledge. Not because it's not accessible, because you rejected it. Because you rejected truth, I reject you as my priest. Don't be so arrogant as to think that you alone, or you in your counterfeit church, you're the one people who haven't been deceived. Excuse me, I taught you in Daniel 9, in the first video, that the Antichrist came to destroy the entire sanctuary over the last thousands of years since Jesus was crucified. It doesn't say that there are select people who weren't deceived. The word says, come out of Babylon. You have been deceived. You're not special, and you're not exempt from biblical prophecy, from what God said was already going to happen. And right now, what you're being offered is an opportunity to prove the genuineness of the faith that you say is in your heart, to prove the genuineness of belief in God and belief in His Word. And I'm not asking you to believe because I say. In fact, I'm asking you not to do that. I'm asking you to go to God and ask Him if the things I say are true. You have to receive it from Him. But I am showing you in the scriptures. And so if this is in your heart, if this is what you believe, that this is the Word of God alone, that this is the Word of God, then you can't help but go to God and ask. Let's talk about the divided kingdom. Now, in the past, I had understood that this had to do with global powers, superpowers. But God has led me to the understanding and to exactly what He wrote in Daniel 2, which is, from here on out, this is a divided kingdom. From papal Rome forward, this is a divided kingdom. And it's going to culminate to an eighth kingdom. So that when it says in Daniel 2 that rock is going to go to the fifth kingdom, it's the same kingdom. It's not like different kingdoms are now coming out. It's going to be the same kingdom from 5 to 8. And you're going to see in Daniel 8 that the power just keeps shifting. It shifts from one of the parts of the divided kingdom to another, to another, to another. It starts out with Babylon the Great, the harlot Catholic Church. Then it goes to the prostitutes that bore out of her, Revelation 17:5. Daniel 7 is going to talk about 10 horns that come out of the fourth kingdom of Rome. These are the 10 Germanic tribes that trampled Rome. Revelation 17 also talks about these Germanic tribes, these 10 horns that have one purpose, to hand over their power and authority to the Antichrist. That's exactly what they've done. I will demonstrate for you. But those 10 horns are actually not one of these 4 other kingdoms. But they are involved in the system of the Antichrist. So I will demonstrate that for you when we read Revelation 17. So we have Babylon the Great, the harlot Catholic Church, the prostitutes that bore out of her, Then Revelation 13 talks about the two kingdoms of the very end. It talks about a false prophet that testifies to the Antichrist, so it's testifying to these false doctrines, and then it creates an image for everyone to worship, and it requires all of the world to worship this image or to not be able to buy or sell. The United States gave breath to the image of the Antichrist, fake Israel, to cause it to speak. And that fake Israel, the image of the Antichrist, is going to be successful until the time of the end. I don't care what political commentators are telling you. This is what the word says. And the word is revealing itself to be true, isn't it? The false prophet of the United States has testified to the Antichrist of false Christianity. It does so through Christian nationalism. It has forced these things in schools, in the legal system, even using the Bible as some idol on which you place your hand, or an image on which you place your hand, that you're going to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, right? Using it as an image. I mean, have you seen that anyone did that in the Bible? Did they use something as an image in order for you to swear allegiance to that thing? The word is in your heart by the Spirit. The word is not to be set up in an image of a book. There are many ways that the false prophet of the United States has testified to the Antichrist. And if you read NSPM 7, you should be able to see right now that anyone who speaks against traditional, normative, the many Christian values, so like a person like me who says these things are false, this is actually what's true in the word, anyone who says that is a domestic terrorist. So you are not allowed to speak against the Antichrist. You must worship Israel, or you are not going to be able to buy or sell. We will destroy you and we will destroy your country through tariffs and sanctions and calling your employer and blacklisting and detaining and torturing and disappearing and murdering you. The image of the Antichrist, the number one persecuting power of the end, the image that the false prophet requires everyone to worship, in case you were wondering who has the power right now, that image of the Antichrist, as is written in Revelation 13, is going to require everyone to worship it and receive its mark, and if they don't, they're going to be killed. That includes you, by the way. So whatever ideas you had in this deception you were born into about this empire you're building and about what abundance and prosperity mean and about your reward and your inheritance, guess what? You don't receive that here. If you're being rewarded here, it's because you belong to this world. You don't belong to God. Look at the way the early Christians were treated. You have to understand what the truth is, or you're never going to accept what you're going to need to suffer. That's Kingdom 5 through 8. Let me tell you again. The harlot Catholic Church. The prostitutes that bore out of her that continue in her prostitutions. The false prophet of the United States. The image of the Antichrist. Now let me show you in Scripture. Revelation 17. I want to point out once again to you, because the understanding of Daniel 2 and who those 5 kingdoms are, there are other churches, such as the Seventh-day Adventist Community, who understand those first 5 kingdoms. What they do not understand are the prostitutes that bore out. What they do not understand is that God has said that this is a divided kingdom from here on out. This is a divided kingdom. This is not about global superpowers from here on out. This is about a divided kingdom that is the kingdom of the Antichrist, that is culminating, just as we read in Daniel 9. Imagine that. Just as we read in Daniel 9, that from the time that the Anointed One is put down, that the people of the ruler who would come, well, who were the people in charge at that time? It was Rome. The people of the ruler who came was the harlot Catholic Church, that they were going to destroy the sanctuary. And these are the people who've been destroying the sanctuary. The harlot Catholic Church, the prostitutes that bore out of her, the false prophet of the United States, the image of the Antichrist. So that when I tell you that we are in the middle of that 7 right now, The witnesses have been testifying. They have been telling you this is the covenant, walk in it. They have been living out the covenant in front of you. They have been warning, we've been living in this deception. This is what the truth is. They have been speaking on the authority of the one who sent them. The word told you that the witnesses were going to come and do this. The word tells you in Isaiah that the witnesses, that the covenant is broken and its witnesses are despised. Its witnesses, the covenant's witnesses, are despised. Why? Because so many of you despise the covenant. I posted a video yesterday talking about that God. You know how people say, well, I don't know if I want that God. Because they despise him and they despise his covenant. They despise his truth. They don't want that God, that gospel, that truth. They want the deception because it doesn't hold them accountable. It's the same thing as the way that so many of you treat relationships. Well, sure, I want the physical gratification and the emotional gratification. I love when you think that I'm wonderful. I love when you cook for me and when you do these nice things for me and you say nice things to me. But I don't like when you disagree with me. I don't like when you hold me accountable. I don't like when you think that I need to change. I don't like when you think that I need to listen to you. I don't like that God revealed truth to you and you're trying to make me accept it. That isn't what I signed up for. That's not what I came here for. I don't want that wife. I want the wife that is obedient, who submits to me as I distort and misrepresent scripture to act like there's something special about me. Not that the word says to submit to one another. I want the wife who's going to go to false Christianity with me every week. Put a smile on her face and make me look good. That's the wife I want. Don't bother me with the truth. I'm not willing to have that conversation anymore. That's how you guys are treating God. Put a smile on your face and shut up. This isn't the agreement that I signed up for. Y'all fail to realize that the covenant is a two-way street. That God stated the covenant as an if-then covenant. If he was just going to give you a gift and pay it all, he wouldn't have stated it as a covenant. He would have stated it as just a unilateral gift. But it turns out that there's a lot that God expects, and it turns out that his word says it's hard for the righteous to be saved. So what in the world do you think you're so saved for right now? You haven't even come out of deception. Nor do you guys use the concept of saved correctly. Revelation 17. One of the seven angels who had the seven bowls came and said to me, "Come, I will show you the punishment of the great prostitute who sits by many waters." The great prostitute, Babylon the Great, is the harlot Catholic Church. With her the kings of the earth committed adultery, and the inhabitants of the earth were intoxicated with the wine of her adulteries, the doctrines of her adulteries. Guess what? Even the pagans pick up your practices, people of God. The pagans celebrate Christmas and Easter. Shouldn't that be a warning to you? The pagans adorn their necks with images of the cross and the Star of David, in diamonds no less. That's so impressive to God, isn't it? Then the angel carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness. There I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was covered with blasphemous names and had 7 heads and 10 horns. These 10 horns are the ones I was talking with you about earlier, the 10 Germanic tribes that became Western Europe. Does the shoe fit? Has Western Europe handed over its power and authority to the image of the Antichrist? Does it testify to the Antichrist? Are its politicians sold out to the Mossad and its lobbies, to bribery and blackmail? Money is the root of all kinds of evil, isn't it? There I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was covered with blasphemous names and had 7 heads and 10 horns. Let's count them down. Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, pagan Rome, papal Rome, the prostitutes that bore out of her, the false prophet. The 8th kingdom, the persecuting power, is the image of the Antichrist, which is of the 7. Let's continue on. The woman was dressed in purple and scarlet and was glittering with gold, precious stones, and pearls. Okay, so she's well rewarded by the world. She held a golden cup in her hand filled with abominable things and the filth of her adulteries. The name written on her forehead was a mystery, Babylon the Great. The mother, oh, she's a mother of prostitutes and the abominations of the earth. She's the mother of them because all of these things bore out of this fifth kingdom. I saw that the woman was drunk with the blood of God's holy people, the blood of those who bore testimony to Jesus. When I saw her, I was greatly astonished. Then the angel said to me, "Why are you astonished? I will explain to you the mystery of the woman and the beast she rides, which has 7 heads and 10 horns. Recognize that the woman is controlling the beast, not the other way around. The woman, the church, a woman in Scripture is a church. The woman is controlling this system of government, of kingdoms. The beast which you saw once was, now is not, and yet will come up out of the abyss and go to its destruction." All right, so we need a little timestamp. We need to understand, where is John in the vision here? John is in the 6th kingdom in the vision. Anybody who wants to say that the Antichrist is a man, the word is talking about kingdoms here. And it's saying that this once was, now is not, but is going to rise again. So this Antichrist, this system, was in power at one time, now is not from the perspective of John in the 6th kingdom, but is going to rise again and go to its destruction. The inhabitants of the earth whose names have not been written in the Lamb's in the book of life from the creation of the world will be astonished when they see the beast, because it once was, now is not, and yet will come. Yeah, people looking kind of astonished at, like, what in the world is going on? Why does Israel act with impunity? That's why. This calls for a mind with wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 hills on which the woman sits. They are also 7 kings. Okay, a lot of people talking about Rome and how it's positioned on 7 hills. The word already told you what the 7 hills are. The 7 hills represent 7 kings or 7 kingdoms. Now we're going to see how we know that John is in the 6th kingdom in the vision. 5 have fallen. In real life, he's in the 4th kingdom, Rome. But here in the vision, he's in the 6th kingdom. 5 have fallen. 1 is. Okay, 5 have fallen. 1 is. That's 6th kingdom. The other is not yet come, but when it does come, he must remain only for a little while. I mean, that would really bother Donald Trump, wouldn't it? It's only going to remain for a little while. What do you mean by that? You're a pawn. You're a tool in God's plan. That's what that means. Just like Nebuchadnezzar, who gave himself glory and said, "Oh, look at my kingdom, my glory, da 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 da." And then he was made to live in the wilderness for 7 years until he acknowledged that God is the only God. The God of gods, the King of kings. God is the one who sets up kings. He is the one who deposes them. And yet, look at all the people worshiping Donald Trump like he's gonna save America and make it great again. All you people calling yourself Christian, and what you worship is this ideology of MAGA. And you're perfectly willing to turn a blind eye to what you know about your leader, that he is a pedophile, rapist, an adulterer, using the same platform that Constantine used. Oh, I'm a Christian. Using that same platform to gain power. And you fell right into it. Shame on you. He's a slave. He is bought by Israel. And he doesn't care as long as he's got the money. He has no idea what his fate is. But you're supposed to understand it. You're supposed to understand. Because you've been told to test the spirit to know whether a person is from God. You've been told to discern the fruit. But because you don't hold yourselves accountable, you don't know how to hold anyone else accountable to what the truth actually is. You think war is okay? You think the Old Testament justifies war? Jesus said, don't murder. You're not allowed to murder. Even if you're thinking certain thoughts about your brother or sister, you've already committed murder in your heart. Jesus said, if my kingdom were of this world, my people would fight, but my kingdom's not of this world. So why are you supporting war? Especially in the Middle East, especially in this place, this abomination that calls itself Israel, when you should know that Israel is a spiritual nation in the Word. That Israel is a nation that's going to be gathered throughout the entire world, not in the Middle East. Yet you will support murder, theft, sodomy, rape, the killing of little children, trafficking, blackmail, pedophilia. You'll support all of that because why? Oh, but we're supposed to support Israel. That's what Ted Cruz learned in Sunday school. The hillbilliest stupidity I've ever heard in my entire life. That's what I learned in Sunday school, but I can't show you where it is in the Bible, and that is the epitome of false Christianity. This is what I know, but I can't tell you where it is in the Bible. I observe Saturday and Sunday, but can't tell you where it is in the Bible. Don't you dare tell me otherwise, because I'll cover my ears and call you crazy. I'll call you crazy for your wackadoodle ideas that you get from the Word. I'll call you crazy. But I won't show you where it is in the Bible. This calls for a mind with wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 hills on which the woman sits. 7 kingdoms, guys. They are also 7 kings. 5 have fallen, 1 is. The other has not yet come, but when it does come, he must remain for a little while. That's the false prophet of the United States. We're going to read about him in Revelation 13. The beast who once was and now is not is an 8th king. He belongs to the 7 and is going to his destruction. And in fact, do we not know that the 8th king is also part of the 5, 6, 7? We know that. And we know that that 5th kingdom, it's not just the 8th kingdom going to its destruction. It's all of them, because they are all that kingdom that in Daniel 2 we're told the rock not cut out by human hands is going to be thrown to it, and every kingdom is coming down. Because the only kingdom that is going to exist is the eternal kingdom of Christ our Lord. But if you are aligning yourself with the ideologies, with the mark of these kingdoms in your heart, that's what's in your heart. You've been marked by the beast. That's what's going on. These are your ideologies? Genocide, war, murder, all in the name of God, huh? In the name of God. Oh, got it. Doing the Lord's work. Christian soldiers. If that's what's in your heart, you will go into the lake of burning sulfur with them, because that's what you belong to. You don't have to be the people in power, guys. You can be the oppressed that are in slavery who don't even realize it, supporting this nonsense. If that is what you worship, you are marked by that. That is what you belong to. And Revelation 13 tells you so. That the dragon gives its power and authority to this system, so that in worshiping this system, they're worshiping the dragon. We're going to get through Revelation 17, and then I'm going to show you exactly where that is. You think it's not a big deal to go to a counterfeit church? You are worshiping the dragon, because he has given his power and authority to that system. The 10 horns you saw are 10 kings who have not received a kingdom, but who for 1 hour will receive authority as kings along with the beast. Those are the 10 Germanic tribes that became Western Europe. They received power and authority along with the United States, largely through NATO. And they have been testifying to the image of the Antichrist ever since. And they are at the behest of the false prophet ever since. You want to understand why these politicians are making these crazy decisions that they make? Why it is that these nations, the false prophet and fake Israel, behave with impunity? That's why. These 10 horns that became Western Europe have one purpose and will give their power and authority to the beast. That's what they've done. They will wage war against the Lamb, but the Lamb will triumph over them, because he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and with him will be his called, chosen, and faithful followers. Then the angel said to me, the waters you saw where the prostitute sits are peoples, multitudes, languages, nations, and languages. Okay? Harlot Catholic Church. Catholic means universal in Greek. And yes, they are universal. And yes, this whole system of counterfeit religion is universal among the peoples, multitudes, nations, and languages. And it has been fornicating with the important people of the earth. The beast and the 10 horns you saw will hate the prostitute. They will bring her to ruin and leave her naked. They will eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For God has put it into their hearts to accomplish his purpose by agreeing to hand over to the beast their royal authority until God's words are fulfilled. The woman you saw is the great city that rules over the kings of the earth. Now, there's a separation here that's being described. There's a woman who's riding the beast, but then it says, the 10 horns and the beast are going to hate the prostitute. Wait a minute. Didn't they bear out of her? And you see in Revelation 14 that once the witnesses have died, that Babylon the Great has fallen. This is going to happen in your lifetime. This is going to happen very soon. That you're going to see the harlot Catholic Church fall before the others in this kingdom, and it is going to terrify the others in this kingdom. Let's go to Revelation 13. The dragon stood on the shore of the sea, and I saw a beast coming out of the sea. It had 10 horns and 7 heads. We know who the 10 horns are. We know who the 7 heads are. And it has 10 crowns on its horns, and on each head a blasphemous name. 10 crowns is just representing authority that they've been given. The beast I saw resembled a leopard, but it had feet like those of a bear and a mouth like that of a lion. A leopard is described as swift in the Bible. The feet of a bear are what swipe you. A bear is not going to come at you with his teeth. He's going to come at you with his claws first. And a lion has been represented in 2 ways. Obviously, we have the Lion of Judah and we have the servants of God. But God also talks about how she roars at him like a lion, so he hates her. This is rebellion, obstinance. The dragon gave the beast his power and his throne and great authority. One of the heads of the beast seemed to have a fatal wound, but the fatal wound had been healed. Okay? Has fallen, was, now is not, will rise again. That's the description we saw in Revelation 17. The whole world was filled with wonder and followed the beast. People worship the dragon because he'd given authority to the beast. Do you see that? And so if you are in an Antichrist system that you know is false, that God has already revealed this to you, he doesn't need to give you a list of things, guys. God doesn't dump on you the entire list of what you need to know so that you can then take it back and consider whether you want to believe this or not. He reveals it to you slowly because you can't handle all of the deceptions that you've believed. And you need to prove that you're going to handle well what he's given you at the time. People worship the dragon because he had given authority to the beast, and they also worship the beast and asked, who is like the beast? Who can wage war against it? They enjoy the power of this world, don't they? In fact, I've even heard these Christian nationalists and Zionists saying, there's more of us than there are of you. I don't know where this murderous, violent hostility comes from in people claiming to be God. There are literally people who are training for a physical war, a physical bloodbath. Gary Bird takes swords and knights people, knights them, riding Harleys through fake Israel like a Hell's Angel, claiming to be for God, knighting people with a sword. What happened to Jesus saying, my kingdom's not of this world? If it were, my people would fight, but then my kingdom's not of this world. What about that? Stupid people whose strength is their own God. They love the power of the beast. They love the power of the dragon, of Satan in this world. Who's like the beast? Who can wage war against it? They don't want what Jesus did, who he was, who he has required us to be, to suffer, to participate, share in the sufferings of Christ. They don't want that God. The beast was given a mouth to utter proud words and blasphemies and to exercise its authority for 42 months. It opened its mouth to blaspheme God and to slander his name and his dwelling place and those who live in heaven. It was given power to wage war against God's holy people and to conquer them. And it was given, do you notice that? God's people. Nope, not these people in the Middle East calling themselves chosen. God's people. And there's no excuse for you to not understand that. Because God's people, after Jesus died, were being slaughtered. They were being conquered. They were being fed to wild animals and sawed in half. So there's no reason you shouldn't understand this. The only reason you don't understand it is because you've been listening to people who've been telling you that some image of a people calling themselves chosen, those claiming to be Jews, though they are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan, that they're going to bear this for you. Like as though you need another Messiah to bear something for you so that you can hasten Armageddon. And what even is that? What do you mean hasten Armageddon? God's people go up in the resurrection before Armageddon. Why would you want to hasten Armageddon? I'm not planning on being here. I have reservations for the wedding supper of the Lamb. I'm not trying to be here. It was given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. All inhabitants of the earth will worship the beast, all whose names have not been written in the Lamb's book of life, the Lamb who was slain from the creation of the world. So here's the irony, is that the very image of the Antichrist, that counterfeit Christianity that Zionists have been worshiping is the very image that's actually the Antichrist that's going to persecute you, that's actually going to cause you to be killed and imprisoned and tortured if your name has been written in the Lamb's Book of Life. Whoever has ears, let them hear. If anyone goes into captivity they will go. If anyone is to be killed with the sword they will be killed. This calls for patient endurance and faithfulness on the part of God's people. Then I saw a second beast coming out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, but it spoke like a dragon. So it looks Christian, but it has the message of the devil. Lauren Boebert, when asked by Lee Fong, when he was working for The Intercept, can you tell me about this relationship between Israel and the United States? And she said there's 2 nations that have been called by God, the United States and Israel. I will do everything that I have to do to stand and defend both. She didn't cite it in the Bible, though. You know why? Because it's not in the Bible. There's only one nation that God has called to himself, and that is the nation of Israel. That is spiritual Israel, not some land of devils in the Middle East. Those who are going to be gathered from the entire world, not in the Middle East. The United States claims to be a Christian nation, claims to be built on Christian principles, and it's a lie. It has never been true, and it's certainly not true now. It is the same tactic that was used by Constantine the Fake when he wanted political power. He pretended to be a Christian, and then caused those claiming to be Christian, who were being slaughtered, to trade in their inheritance. You remember that the word says that there were people who were in prisons at that time who were refusing to be released, that they might gain a better resurrection. So the people who turned to this version of so-called Christianity, of false Christianity, did so at the expense of their inheritance. They were so close. They were so close. But they had a choice between being slaughtered, being martyred, or prostituting themselves to this other version of so-called Christianity. They forsook their inheritance. You going to do the same thing? You're so close. You're right there. This is it. This is the end. The United States was offered as a place for people to be able to come and worship freely. But that's not what we turned it into. That's not what the Catholic colonizers turned it into. The second beast, the false prophet of the United States, coming out of the earth, it had 2 horns like a lamb, but it spoke like a dragon. It exercised all the authority of the first beast on its behalf. So it's now doing the bidding of Catholicism and the prostitutes that bore out of her. I'm sick and tired of hearing you guys talk about the Catholic Church when you continue to stay in the prostitutes and not have the sense to understand where you got your practices from. The false prophet of the United States has been doing the bidding of this Antichrist kingdom, and that includes the prostitutes that bore out of the harlot Catholic Church. It exercised all the authority of the first beast on its behalf and made the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast whose fatal wound had been healed. And it performed great signs, even causing fire to come down from heaven to the earth in full view of the people. Because of the signs it was given power to perform on behalf of the first beast, it deceived the inhabitants of the earth. It ordered them to set up an image in honor of the beast. So, let's just pause for a minute. Because of the signs it was given power to perform on behalf of the first beast, it deceived the inhabitants of the earth. It ordered them to set up an image in honor of the beast who was wounded by the sword and yet lived. The United States has been given great power. By who? By God. It has been given great power by God. And it has gone around wielding that power. And because of that power, others have wanted to join with it. And it has gone around waging war, forcing people to adhere to its so-called Christianizing, or to receive the consequences. And some of those consequences are the tariffs and sanctions that you see being exerted right now, as well as NSPM 7. You speak these things, you speak against what we're doing, you speak against the Antichrist, you will be imprisoned, tortured, and killed. Because of the signs it was given power to perform on behalf of the first beast, it deceived the inhabitants of the earth. It ordered them to set up an image in honor of the beast who was wounded by the sword and yet lived. The second beast was given power to give breath to the image of the first beast. the second beast, the false prophet of the United States, was given power to give breath to the image of the first beast, fake Israel, so that the image could speak and cause all who refused to worship the image to be killed. It also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads, so that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name. This calls for wisdom. Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of the man. That number is 666. All right. There are a lot of doctrines and ideas about what the mark of the beast is. So let's just dispel a lot of them with what Jesus plainly and clearly stated to you. Nothing that goes into your body is going to defile you, but what comes from the heart, out of your mouth, is what is going to defile you. You're going to be justified by the heart. Anyone can force you down and stick a jab in you, a chip, tattoo you. Anybody can do that. So it's ridiculous that these doctrines even exist. That AI is the mark of the beast. God has already told you you'll be justified by your heart. What your right hand represents are your deeds, and your forehead represents your thoughts and your beliefs. That is the reason why Jews wore phylacteries. They were wearing the law on their forehead, so that this was always on their mind. God has spoken with you about your deeds in your right hand, keeping your hands strong, that what is coming out of you, out of your deeds, your thoughts, your beliefs, and what you speak are coming from your heart. So what is he saying here? You better pay attention to what you're worshiping. You better pay attention to what you're ingesting, what you're exposing yourself to, where your heart is, the work you're doing in your heart. Because that is the mark of the beast. You ingest this Kool-Aid. That is the mark of the beast. And I really don't care about some of you who say, well, I'm not a Zionist. I don't support what Israel's doing, but I am America first. Oh, you're a Christian nationalist. Oh, you're America first. Oh, you worship the false prophet that does all of these things. You better go take that up with God. You weren't supposed to want a human king. Do you realize that? You are supposed to worship God and God alone. And the fact that some of you are claiming that America is a Christian nation tells me what's in your heart. It tells me who you're being marked by, who you belong to. The number 666 is referencing the concept of entering God's rest. 6 is the day that you would have continued to be a human being. It is the day of creation of man. 7 is the day that you would enter his rest, but you can no longer be man. You have to become a new creation in the spirit. And God has talked to you about a sign between us and him, hasn't he? He has spoken to us about a sign between us and him with regard to the Passover, with regard to Sabbath. And you know, what's very interesting to me is that SDAs think that it's as simple as not observing the Sunday Sabbath law that's going to go into effect, right? Many are called, few are chosen, hard for the righteous to be saved, but easy for you. You got the right Sabbath. But actually you don't. You see, the covenant is bigger than that. The covenant is about obedience. The covenant is about loving truth. Why haven't you been brought to obedience? Why haven't you been brought to the truth? These are a sign to you that you're actually in the covenant. God's law, God's covenant is not a bunch of boxes to be checked. If you were in obedience, then he would bring you to understanding when his Sabbath is. Then it would be a sign between the two of you that you have been brought into truth because you have obeyed, because you have sought his word. And what in the world new moon is, and why is it significant? Why is it the faithful witness in the sky? Oh, but never mind. We have something that the Jews told us to do, right? That they got from Rome. If you don't become a new creation in Christ through his ministry, you will never enter his rest. And 666 is a witness against you, that you have been given 2 or more witnesses, 2 or more opportunities, and in fact 3 here, to prove that you have chosen God. Because that's what his law says, that on the matter of 2 or more witnesses, on 2 or more witnesses, a matter will be established. You have been given the two witnesses to speak to you at this point in history, to share with you what the truth is. You have been given the first Passover, you have been given the second Passover, and there will be no more opportunities. You will have decided on 3 witnesses whose mark you wanted to take. 666. And I want you to know, as I have told you in other videos, that of those of you who are going to actually enter the second Passover, because we're already in, the 4th day of first Passover, there is a reason why God has aligned the middle of this 7 with first Passover, second Passover, and the offering of first fruits. There is a reason why. Because this is it, buddy. This is it. You make your decision. Of those of you who did not make yourself ready, who were warned before first Passover so that you could enter in, you were warned by the witnesses, you were warned by your family members, your children. Shame on you. If you can hear it now, and if you return to God, you will have gotten in by the skin of your teeth into that second Passover. But you will endure the plague, you will be killed, you will not enter the first resurrection, you will have forsaken your inheritance, and the older will serve the younger. You will serve the work to be done in the temple. You will not be able to minister before God. That's what Ezekiel 44 says. Until you have paid every last penny until the year of freedom. Read Ezekiel 44 through 46. That is the mark of the beast. The level of wickedness that needs to go on inside of a person to think that the mark of the beast is something so simple and so arbitrary and minuscule, like God is just stupid, is pathetic. It's the entire covenant. It's everything that you have done in your heart to become this new creation, to receive his ministry, to come out of Babylon, and to not be deceived by what you are being influenced to worship right now in the world. It's all of it. And you cannot live as a wise person who understands these things unless you're in obedience to his entire covenant. Why would God just choose one thing at the very end and be like, oh, this'll be it? It's just Sunday worship. It's just that easy. You're just the one church that cracked the code. And yet you can't show me where Saturday is in the Bible, can you? Go discern this message with God.